out by 9 o'clock, which is what we've said. We do want to make sure we get as many questions as possible, so you can keep your questions concise and just kind of raise your hands and we can try to move along here. Representative.
Thank you. Mr. Evers, thank you for taking my question. Do you know something I don't know? Do we now have 51 states?
Oh, District of Columbia is out there. They have a state office, yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
They do. It works with this. I do something. I do want to just say that what does the opposition think? How do they come to this idea? Well, they believe that the natural, unavoidable, inexorable, inherent thing will be a race to the bottom. Anytime you have federalism, you'll have dirty air. Automatically, the air will go to the filthiest. Workplace safety will go to the worst, most dangerous. Water will be filthy. It'll just absolute sludge in every river and lake, and so forth. Well, unfortunately for them, there's been plenty of research such as this, the new federalism, can the states be trusted, empirically looking at whether this happens. Indeed, there's a thing called the proficiency illusion, seeing whether this has happened in education. It hasn't happened. Governors want to be called the education governor. They want to attract businesses to their state. They want to be proud of the education level. And yes, there are some tendencies to do as well as possible. There are also tendencies to do as well as you can. So I think they're empirically wrong. New federalism. Can the states be trusted? Edited by two brilliant political scientists, John Fairjohn and Barry Weingast.
All right in the front here.
Mrs. Robbins, I have a question for you. I teach in a public school. I teach high school, so I don't know whether or not I'll have to collect this data on my students, but I don't want to do it, so how can I not do it?
Good for you.
I hate to encourage you to do something that might.
That's okay, I'll do it anyway.
Exactly. I think that the more teachers who stand up and say, this is not right and I'm not going to do it, and at some point they'll have to deal with that.
Is that something that's going to be done in the elementary schools as opposed to the high school?
It will, well, it'll be done different ways, yes. A lot of it will come in through the elementary schools, but to me, the most troubling part of the data is what is going to happen with the digital learning, because that's what's collected when you don't even know it's being collected, because that's being collected on the non-cognitive things, and how does this child respond to this? How did he answer this? How many times did it take him to do this? Did he collaborate well with other people? But yeah, for the kinds of things that the teachers would be involved in, which would be, if they're asking you to assess kids, things like that, I would love for you to say, I won't do that. That's not education. That's not what I'm here to do. Let me know how it goes.
Right here, sir.
Yeah, I like some members of the panel to address the point of the deprofessionalization of teachers. And what's happening is for the last 3 decades, this has been going on. And this, the Common Core, seems to be the crowning blow here about this. And what's going to happen to future generations of people and professionals who want to go into teaching and want to make it their career, and they see this happening at the school level, and they're just becoming robots.
I think you should answer both, but I just want to say one sentence first. Teachers who find mistakes or problems when they learn about what was on the test have no recourse. Go ahead, Sam.
We've had a decline in the academic level of our teaching corps for about 50 years. So this is not new, and it is a problem. The problem with Common Core and the whole standards movement, and I should say the accountability concept, which sounds initially very good. Somebody should be accountable for whatever they're doing, and I certainly believe that teachers, as well as any other professional, should be. The problem with the movements that began several decades ago, it's not just with Common Core, is that they didn't know how to make anyone else accountable except teachers and schools. And yet when you think about learning, a child's learning, there are parents and there are children's own individual efforts. And I worked under a commissioner when I was in Massachusetts who said, we can go halfway, but they also have to come halfway as well. So the idea that teachers will be evaluated, and the argument with the unions and others is about how much of that should be determined by the percentage of the of student scores, raises the question of why accountability is just there. And yes, what you say will happen is already happening.
Sandy, I
Good
thought you were
people
going to say
lead.
something about teacher training schools also, because you haven't answered this question before. I'm very knowledgeable on
The
that.
training schools are being aligned to Common Core, so it will start there. But getting in more qualified people is something training schools aren't interested in, because then you hit the cash cow problem, which is that they make money out of particularly elementary ed programs. Our serious problems in our public schools, actually, in my judgment, come from the decline in our teaching corps in general. This doesn't mean that all teachers have not been high academically, or that all teachers are need to be retrained or replaced by somebody else. But we have had a difference in what has happened since the early part of the last century, when the standards for who could become a teacher were as high as for those who could become a doctor or an engineer. We simply have not kept pace. And so that is going to continue decelerating. And there is nothing in Common Core that makes teachers feel like professionals. This is one of the major problems.
Yeah, sure.
How does Teach for America can influence this kind of a situation about teaching professionally?
It's actually been, and the research shows, that those who come in who are students from demanding or selective liberal arts colleges end up, even though they have very little teacher training experience, do as well as, if not better than, teachers who come from a traditional route. But they don't stay in education very long. Many of them, most of them leave, or they go on into other things. So they're not a permanent answer or the total answer to a professional need.
I'd also like to comment too. So I mean, I think that the general problem that we've had over the last at least 25 or 30 years, but probably goes back a little further, is that the power is flowing away from the parents, away from the schools and the teachers. The further you get away from the school and the classroom, the more authority officials seem to have. And I think that's a big problem. And Pioneer is a big advocate for charter schools, virtual schools, vocational technical schools, and school choice is a variety of different mechanisms. And that's the thing, is if you want to engage parents, you want teachers, you want the people that are actually doing the work at the school level to have an investment in it, to really take ownership of it, you have to give them power. And that's been a general problem. And I think Common Core will dramatically accelerate that power away from both teachers and schools.
Yeah.
Crop TV.